Okay, guys, before I even start the intro, someone beat Rodolfo. Someone beat Rodolfo. Blake Bryant just unseats the king of.
I'm getting worried. Is everything okay with him? Because there's two guys.
Yeah, I mean, we may need to do a wellness call. Like, someone's got to do a wellness. Rodolfo was first last night for my show. All right, well, I guess I have
a well check call on Rodolfo. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is bad for Rodolfo. This is unlike him. But anyway, we'll just continue. We'll start with the Modcast. Welcome back, because it's Thursday and it's time for the Modcast. As we wait for Rodolfo, Jason's going to do a wellness check using that home phone of his in the background, Rotodial with his and everything. But while we're waiting for that, we still got Alex is here, Travis is here, Jason's here, no catch is here. Save the jokes for yourself. And of course, this one is brought to you by DeadSoxy.com. Listen, you can use the promo code Orangebloods. You get 25% off. And it's not just regular socks, all right? So I think, you just make sure I understand. Like, if you like team colors, you want to wear your burnt orange, and you want to have something like cool that you wear out, look on DeadSoxy.com. We have them. You can rock them. So, you're looking for stuff in the holidays. You got to go out, go to work. You want to support your team. You finally have a reason to support your team, right? But you want a little bit of flair. They're comfortable. They got this patented no slip guarantee. They've also got some premium product that's made from bamboo. Kind of gives you a luxury feel. So it's better than just like a normal socks that you're gonna get from Walmart. Step your game up. No offense, Walmart, and no offense, Target or anything like that. But step your game up. Check out DeadSoxy.com. That's where, and even Jason's got them. Travis
I've had them for a long time, dude, and
amazingly comfortable.
They are the most comfortable socks. They stay. Just try them out, man. Try them out, and I promise people you'll like them.
One day, Alex is going to get them.
I'll believe it when I see it, guys. I keep getting promised all this DeadSoxy action, man. I got no DeadSoxy stuff.
I'm gonna go collect your mail and steal them from you. Just check out their website, dude. listen. GQ and everybody's raving. It's not just Orangebloods. These are legit badass socks, dude. And they're super comfortable, super stylish. So check them out.
Jason with the GQ sub, is that what I'm hearing?
No, it's on their website now. There's Esquire, Men's Health, Forbes, Men's Journal, GQ. Seriously, it's a big time outfit. They make some tremendous products.
Travis, there's not been too many guys in GQ wearing an Adidas hat in a while. So Jason's definitely not going to be leaving Orangebloods to move to New York to pursue his modeling career. Let's just put it at that. So, but guys, man, listen, man.
Geriatric Q, maybe.
Exactly. Man, TCU is right around the corner. No one would have predicted that this would be the game of the year heading into the season. But, here we are. It's a big game for Texas. Obviously, it's huge for TCU as far as their pursuit of a national title, or at least getting the CFP, which sounds crazy to even say. I don't even know what world we're operating in when we're talking about TCU competing for a natty, but here we are. Jason, I'll start with you, and then I'll go to Alice to get some of your thoughts. I'm just kind of curious, just from a general standpoint, before we narrow it in. Give me your thoughts on this kind of big game matchup with game day being here, primetime game. It's the second time, Steve Sarkisian mentioned this. It's the second time that Texas has hosted a game day. TCU's will be the second time they've been on. Second time Texas has hosted one. Give me your thoughts about this whole entire weekend.
Huge weekend, obviously, for Texas, trying to get in the Big 12 title game. TCU trying to stay in the national championship hunt. It's maybe going to be the biggest recruiting weekend for Texas, probably the biggest in-season recruiting weekend. We thought the Alabama one was big, but there's a lot of guys coming in. That's in Cole Patterson and I actually recorded a Crewcast video that'll be out later today, kind of detailing everything that's going on this week in recruiting. So a monumental week in recruiting for Texas to keep building that momentum. TCU, it's funny, Elmore, I do my 3-2-1 column and I rank the teams in the Big 12. And early in the season, I think I had TCU preseason, I don't remember, 8th in the Big 12 or something like that. But I said, I'm a big Sonny Dykes fan, and I expect TCU to climb that ranks. And now, of course, they're number 1 in the Big 12. I didn't ever expect them to get up into college football playoff contention, number 4 nationally. But this game on paper, I posted my matchups this morning. I've got it dead even, man. It's a dead even matchup. I got, Texas playing at home will help and things, but I think it's going to be a super fun environment, a super competitive game. And it's fun to be talking about this caliber of game this late in the season. This is something we haven't had on Orangebloods for a while. So just an exciting week all around, man. I'm ready to get to the weekend and see how things unfold.
Alex, kind of same thing for you. I mean, I don't know if any of us would have been thinking about this after that Oklahoma State loss and heading into the bye, but things happen, and Texas rebounds and gets the win. TCU keeps winning. I'm just, from a general perspective, give me your thoughts going into the weekend.
Well, I mean, it's the game of the year. It's must win. This is must win time, dude. This is nut cutting time. This is where they got to get it done. They're in a position to control their own destiny. And I wrote it, like, anytime you're in position to control your own destiny, you need to be doing everything you can to design your own destiny, right? And there are probably some things that they can be doing to give themselves the upper hand here. I think that there's a lot of sort of built-in sneaky advantages that we can talk about through the course of the show, but clearly with the recruiting, I mean, just Jason, I'm sure Jason will break down the recruiting list for the weekend and talk about the implications there. But even just from a pure recruiting standpoint, what a win here would do. And that's not even miles, that's not even miles close to how important it is just to win this game as far as what it could do for the program and the runway it could put the program on towards a Big 12 championship berth. So, I mean, it's the biggest game of the year. It's a must-win game. It's going to be must-see TV. It's going to be awesome, man. Hope the Longhorns can get everything together to pull off the win. Travis,
what do you got? What are you thinking?
I don't think Texas is allowed to play anything except a close 4-quarter game, right? So I expect it to be a tight game all the way through. Well, I expect it to be a big lead for Texas early and then a tight game through the third and fourth quarter, because that's what we do, right? And I also expect the house to be rocking. I think the environment Saturday is going to be just nuts, and I think it's going to be fun to watch. I'm looking forward to this game. Just separating out any kind of journalistic separation. If I were a neutral observer, I'd still be looking forward to this game because I think it's going to be a fun atmosphere and a tough-fought battle.
Jason, Alex kind of made me think of something, and I know typically we save recruiting for last, and but I feel like when it comes to this weekend, I think it's almost safe that we can start off with recruiting and kind of like if you can maybe give us an idea of the guys who are going to be there so far, the commit list and the importance of the guys who are going to be there this weekend, because we'll get into the game and what all that entails. But I think we all got a good idea of that. Let's start with recruiting first.
Sure. First off, Anwar, how about the week leading up to the weekend? You have a decommitment on Monday morning. I'm like, didn't see that coming necessarily. That's not expected to start my Monday. Colton Vosick commits to Texas on Tuesday, flips from Oklahoma. Anthony Hill on Monday decommits from – in fact, Anthony Hill Monday morning, his dad told me, that they'll be at the game. So I put that out there. That's big news, right? And everybody's excited. And then 2 hours later, I think he announced his decommitment from A&M. So just a wild week leading up to this weekend. Like I'm started compiling my list, and I've got it here. And we'll add some names to this tonight. And I'm going to go through – I'm not going to – listen, that would be an hour-long Modcast in itself. So I'm going to go through each of these guys and give my thoughts in the Orangebloods War Room tonight. So I would encourage everybody to keep an eye out for that. Check that out. Sign up. We'll actually have a promo. If you're not signed up for Orangebloods, we have a promo that we'll put out there on the front page. Just keep an eye out for that. But anyways, Anthony Hill, the 5-star linebacker, will be in town. Recent A&M decommitment. That one looks really good for Texas. I mean, it was a Texas A&M battle when he committed to A&M. A&M, he's decommits from there. So what does that tell you? I mean, there's other schools, Alabama, LSU, Ohio State, USC, that are going to try to get involved there. But I think Texas looks really good there. Javian Toviano, the 5-star cornerback at Arlington Martin. He was at LSU last week, his second trip to LSU. Everybody assumed LSU is going to be the winner there. I still think LSU is probably the team to beat. But listen, you're getting him on campus for what should be a great environment. This is a chance for Texas to make a move with one of the best players in the country at a need position. Jelani McDonald is a guy, Texas. He was committed to Oklahoma State. Texas offers him. He comes in for the Iowa State game. Then he ends up decommitting from Oklahoma State. I mean, you can read the tea leaves there. Looks pretty good. He's coming in this weekend for an unofficial visit. I wouldn't be shocked to see him leave as a committed player. He's saying maybe he wants to wait a little bit, but you get there and you get caught up in that environment and that atmosphere. Anything could happen there. Jaden Greathouse, the receiver from Westlake, who's committed to Notre Dame. Bravion Rogers, A&M, kind of an athlete, defensive back commit. Derek Hunter's a JUCO defensive tackle. These are all unofficial visits, Anwar, and then you get into official visits. Wide receiver DeAndre Moore out of Cali, committed to Louisville. Marcus Deal, one of Texas's top overall targets, a defensive lineman, is coming in. Deuce Robinson, the nation's #1 tight end. Jacoby Lane is a receiver that's committed to USC. He's out of Arizona. He's coming in. And that doesn't even begin to touch on 2024 guys. Five-star Colin Simmons, Aaron Hampton, Texas commit Hunter Modden, Terry Bussey, Michael Ewing is a top offensive lineman. And then you got a whole host of current Texas commitments that will be in town. So, again, man, I could go on and on and on, but tremendous weekend. I mean, this is going to be a very productive weekend for Texas, regardless of how the game plays out. I mean, assuming Texas doesn't go out there and just turn in a dud and get blown out. Okay, assuming it's a competitive game in a really good environment, it's going to be a productive weekend for Texas on the recruiting front. But boy, if they can go out there and win this game and continue to show these recruits the kind of upward trajectory that people think this program is on, there could be a windfall of action following this game with 2023 guys, and it'll have some carryover with 2024 guys that are in town. So tremendously big weekend for Texas on the recruiting front.
It's interesting, Jason, because I thought the big weekend was when Arch was just here just a few weeks ago. Did this just kind of come out of the blue organically, where as the momentum started shifting, they just said, all right, let's just make this into a big weekend? Because where did this come from?
To some degree, it's definitely picked up steam. A lot of these official visits were already set for this weekend because, if you want to bring them in during the season, it's either this or Baylor week, but Baylor week is Thanksgiving week. It's a little tricky. You got high school playoffs, which actually start this weekend, but Texas is fortunate. This being a night game on Saturday really helped them because guys can play their high school playoff games tonight, Friday, some maybe even Saturday, and still get to Austin by Saturday night. But yeah, it's a good question, Almar. Some of the unofficial visits have been in place, or the official visits, and a couple of the unofficial visits have been in place. But guys like Anthony Hill, Toviano, Bravion Rogers, those guys just set up their visits. So it really did just pick up steam. Really, this week is when it really started to just blow into, like I said, probably the biggest in-season recruiting weekend we've seen in some time.
Talk to us about Anthony Hill, though, Jason. I mean, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And I wanted to address, I keep seeing a lot of questions about Arch. We will follow up, and we checked yesterday or Tuesday, my days are blurred together, with his coach, and his coach said, hey, still unknown at this point. Wasn't a no. It wasn't like, no, he's not going to show up. So we will follow up on that. His teammate is not coming in. So, I don't know if that affects Arch or anything, but, we'll try to have an answer for that in the war room tonight if Arch is going to be able to make it in. Anthony Hill, man, I mean, that one, we have been for 2 months reporting, hey, there's a pretty good chance or a decent chance he's going to wind up making it in for a Texas game. I think it was literally probably 5 weeks ago I was told that. I actually reported that a couple weeks ago when I was on vacation. I was told, hey, yeah, there's still a chance he makes it in for a game. I kind of thought this TCU game just made a lot of sense. Again, it's a Saturday game, now being a night game. Everything about it made sense. So I've kind of been alluding to, hey, we're really watching this TCU weekend for Anthony Hill to show up for the Texas game. I did not expect him to decommit from A&M. I thought he would show up to the Texas game as a Texas A&M commitment, and then Texas would have a real shot to flip him maybe in December. The timeline's been moved up a little bit. Obviously, he decommits. I want to talk to Anthony and his dad after this visit to kind of get some more vibe, but just talking to people that have communicated with him, they just thought maybe things weren't quite what they expected at A&M. That goes with stuff that's going on the field, and just, I don't know, maybe they weren't feeling quite as comfortable as they thought they would with that commitment. So Anthony's a pretty no-nonsense guy, as is his dad. Really cool guy, really good family. I don't expect him to play a lot of games. I mean, listen, if he comes in this weekend and he gets caught up around, surrounded by all these Texas commitments, and the coaches do a great job in the atmosphere, and he's like, you know what, I'm not going to screw around and just drag this out for a month just because I want the attention. That's not who Anthony Hill is. If he knows and feels pretty confident that he wants to be at Texas. Could he pull the trigger this weekend? Absolutely. But on the flip side, he has said, hey, I want to just kind of slow down and step back and not race into a decision. But he's also a no BS kind of guy. If he loves what he sees, loves the message from the coaches this weekend, I could certainly see a scenario where he wraps up the weekend as a Texas commitment. So one of the biggest stories, I mean, listen, he's a 5-star player at a key position at linebacker. He's the type of player Texas hasn't had at that position in a long time. Pure linebacker. Be a tremendous, tremendous asset for Texas and potentially a day one starter. He's that kind of player if Texas can land the commitment from Anthony Hill.
And Jason, what's interesting is, we've given the staff a lot of credit for offensive recruiting and what they've been able to do. We've talked about the offensive line like last year and what they've been able to do that. And of course, Quinn and Arch and what they've been able to do there, some running back stuff. But we're talking now. You're talking Vasic, right? Now you're talking Anthony Hill. You're talking about getting Toviano on there. It seems to be that some of the more elite guys, Jason, on a defensive side of the ball, are starting to get. At least Texas is getting their interest. How fair of a statement is that?
Absolutely fair. And listen, it helps when you're playing a decent brand of football, which Texas is. I mean, they got to continue it this week. It helps when Texas A&M's crapping the bed, so to speak. Oklahoma is not having a very good season. LSU is becoming a bit of a thorn in UT's side. And also, Omar, two things. I mean, this defense is playing much better football than we've seen Texas play previously, right? I mean, the players see that, the recruits see that. And this staff, defensively and offensively, they do a really good job of just staying in contact with these guys if they commit elsewhere. Just, hey, man, we're just here to let you know that you're still important to us, and the line of communication is going to stay open, and we will stay in touch with you and continue to recruit you. They do it respectfully. They don't put a lot of pressure on. They try not to just shove it down their throats, but they do a really good job of just staying the course and kind of chipping away. And we saw it happen last year. Again, you mentioned kind of on the offensive side, we've seen them gain some late recruiting momentum, and it seems to be happening again this year. Again, they've got to close the deal on some of these guys to make it not a complete, I guess all for naught. But they definitely, the defensive staff this year in particular seems to be doing a really good job and kind of capitalizing on the team success and the better play from the defense on the field.
Alex, how much of Hill's film have you watched? And I'm just kind of curious of your assessment, of what you've seen so far.
Well, I haven't seen him live. I saw that there was somebody in chat saying that he saw him in a 7-on-7. I mean, I would have loved to have gotten to see Anthony Hill live, but just from what you can tell, just from the highlights and watching his huddle, what do you just my general thoughts on him as a player, just where he would fit, or just
your assessment of him as a high school player, what you kind of project on the college level based off of what you're seeing.
Just a sick player. I mean, it's just a great prospect. Jason probably knows I don't pay as much attention to the recruiting list. I'm sure he's one of the top 5 players in the state of Texas. I mean, that's what he looks like. He looks like a guy that's in the tops of the state. I think he's Jason, is he 225? He's probably 225, 230.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably every bit of 225. And I mean, someone mentioned seeing him in 7-on-7. He's tremendous in 7-on-7 just because he's got a true knack for the football. But that's not Anthony Hill's strength, man. Anthony Hill's strength is being a thumper in the middle. And I mean, he will take ball carriers down. He'll take them down hard. He's just got a good nose for the football. I mean, there's really no weakness in his game, man.
Yeah, but the thing about him, I think he's probably 6'2", 6'2-ish, 220. I mean, he's going to grow into
28 is what he's listed at.
Yeah, he's going to grow into a 245 pounder. And whenever you look at him, you wonder, it's like he's got this. He's got the body that you would just crave out of a Mike linebacker, but then you turn on the highlights and you see the sideline to sideline speed. You see him sometimes line up as some kind of crazy wildcat quarterback in the backfield and just outrun the whole rest of the other team, making them look like they're all just everybody on the other team's just running at a different speed than he is. And he's so much bigger than everybody else, like some kind of damn robot out there. I mean, he's one of these guys you just turn on the film and it's like he's just better than everybody else. Whenever you think about his fit with Texas, if he were to come here, obviously he's a guy that you would get on the field immediately, right? He would be on the field immediately. I think that his I mean, Jalen Ford is not going to be able to play at the weak side linebacker, I don't think. So I would imagine you'd probably start him out at will next to Jalen Ford. But I also think, man, he's got long arms and length, and maybe he's a guy you could toy around with off the edge or do some of this stuff like they were doing last week with Devin Richardson. You noticed that whenever they wanted to give Ovi Ogwofu a break, instead of putting in one of the backup edge guys like Prince Dorba or DJ Harris or even the freshman 91 Burke, any of these guys, what they were doing is they were going to do more of a 3 linebacker set where they were just hovering Devin Richardson over the edge. I mean, could you imagine Anthony Hill in a role kind of like that? Just even for sub package stuff. But no, he would come into Texas. He would be an immediate starter. As I said, a little bit redundant in the fact that I think when you look at him, he looks like a guy that's like a super Mike like plus kind of dude, right? Jason said the downhill thumping ability, the ability to get to the football, nose to the football, wrap up, bring his hips through. A great tackler in space, but he's also has that he's got that speed, dude. He's got that sizzle and that twitch to him, to where you want to maybe think of more creative ways to use him than just as a downfield thumping guy that is gonna be a volume tackler type.
No, that makes sense. So, Jason, I'm just kind of curious, obviously with this organic kind of weekend that's kind of formed out of here, what do you think they need to see? Like, is this one of those that do you think they need to see something on the field? Do you think they've got enough attention? Because last year, Texas was able to get guys to commit without really having the results on the field. And so they were still able to kind of sell like the promise of what could be, even though, things didn't work out that well. Is it kind of like that now? Do you think does the win or loss matter? What do you think they need to see? Do they need to hear it? Like, just give me your thoughts.
It matters. I don't think losing to TCU would be catastrophic, but in the same way, I don't think if you beat TCU that you're going to see a flood of commitments just because Texas wins this game. But winning's always better than losing. Omar, you get tired of hearing me say that. But and also, recruiting is kind of contagious. I mean, last year Texas did a really good job. Despite 5-7, they signed a tremendous class. It was all based on a vision, right? Now you're starting to see that vision kind of come to fruition a little bit, with these wins. I mean, if you can beat TCU, then you're looking at, hey, this team's probably going to be a very good chance of being in the Big 12 championship game. So you can sell that to recruits. And recruits, listen, these guys know that Texas had a great recruiting class last year. They know that Colton Vasek just flipped. They know that Arch Manning is committed. I mean, recruits it's kind of similar to A&M. I mean, A&M was able to build recruiting momentum the last few years because they've recruited well. There's a lot of reasons A&M recruited well, but part of it is because it kind of is contagious, man. It has a snowball effect. So Texas is kind of benefiting from that. Again, man, as long as they don't just collapse down the stretch, I think Texas is going to finish this recruiting class on a real high note, and then it carries over into 2024 as well. So winning is important. Is it the end-all, be-all this week to beat TCU? Not necessarily, but beating TCU puts Texas one step closer to being in the Big 12 championship, which is what it's all about, showing these kids that you can play for championships.
You got to win, man. You got to win. Texas has to win. I know, you're talking about it from a recruiting perspective, but like I said, it's like, Jason, I think you would agree that just from a pure football perspective, it's, they can still get some of these guys if Texas doesn't win, right? It's like the whole football thing is just miles away as far as importance for this deal. I mean, Texas guys to come out with the win and just see what happens with, see how much it affects recruiting, in the wash.
Well, they need wins on many levels, not just recruiting, but just
exactly. Jason, let me ask you one more, and then Travis is going to come to you. But and I guess I'll just there's only one way to say it, and I don't know how to candy code it, so I'll just have to kind of say it and then clean it up. But is A&M and OU are they pretty much screwed in the immediate future as far as recruiting is concerned? I mean, if you tell me, you've got Vasek, they lose him. If you lose Hill, your A&M has already obviously been having their own issues as far as what's going over there, and anticipation and speculation that guys been going to the transfer portal afterwards. In the short term, right now, do you feel like those two programs are kind of in trouble?
A&M probably more than Oklahoma in terms of the immediacy. Now, A&M's fortunate that they've recruited so well the last few years. They've got a foundation. I mean, it's not showing up on the field this year, of course, but like you said, Omar, they may lose some of that foundation through the transfer portal. But A&M's recruiting right now is pretty dismal. Anthony Hill decommits. There's no sugarcoating that. That's catastrophic for them. DJ Hicks is visiting Oregon this weekend. I'm not going to get into it, but I've heard some rumblings. I mean, listen, Bravion Rogers, one of their star defensive recruits, is going to be in Austin this weekend. There's another guy that hasn't even been reported yet that I'm kind of dancing around here, and I can't say anything right now, but there's another guy that I've heard rumblings around that might be looking around, a really good player on the A&M commitment list. Oklahoma, they're not recruiting at a level that they were under Lincoln Riley when he really had it cooking. They've bounced back a little bit. They lost last week, of course, but they've bounced back a little bit. They'll still recruit pretty well, Venables, but they're on shaky ground, man. I mean, he's got to get this thing turned around pretty quickly, or schools like LSU and Texas, and of course Alabama's and Georgia's and Ohio State's of the world that recruit the state so heavily. But I wouldn't quite bury either of those programs yet, but they're definitely trending down, whereas Texas is trending up. The thing is, Omar, recruiting, it's so fickle, man. Momentum can change in a hurry. I mean, if Texas goes out and, I hate to even say it, put it out there, but if Texas loses this week and then stumbles on the road at Kansas, the narrative's completely changed in 2 weeks. So, as Alex said, Texas needs to keep taking care of business. But yes, Texas is trending up. Those two programs are definitely trending down.
All right, so Travis, you've been really patient in the recruiting conversation. I do appreciate it. It's giving us all a chance to wonder what kind of hats are hanging up there in the background. Looking inside the closet. Yeah, this guy's got.
Yeah, I meant to close that closet door. Actually, dang it.
It's okay. It gives us a peek into what's going on inside of there. When you start thinking about the game, this upcoming weekend, give me some of your keys. If I had asked you for 3 keys for Texas to pull off a victory this weekend, give me what your top 3 would be.
Well, number one, by a long mile for me, is the Texas pass defense has to step up its game. They've had breakdowns in communication back there that has led to a lot of open receivers. I mean, they give up more than 300-yard passing to Adrian Martinez, which is criminal in my opinion. But so they've really got and Duggan is much, much, much better than Adrian Martinez. So they've got to step it up. That's the number 1 key. The number 2 key is to be more physical in the run game on both sides of the ball. I think this is, TCU has been vulnerable to the run. Bijan and Roshan and Keelan Robinson, who's been looking good lately too. I think they can all do a lot of damage Saturday night, and I think I'm excited to see what the Texas's offensive line can do. And I think that the challenge with Texas's defensive line against TCU's offensive line is a good one to watch. So that's number 2. And then number 3, I don't know, get lucky or not even get. You know what? Honestly, they need to if they get out to a lead, they need to put their foot on the throat of TCU and not let up. They need to, if we're all gas, no brakes, we need to see it on the field in the second half.
I mean, here's the thing though, Travis, what's your faith level? I mean, we say this every single week. But if Texas is leading 31-17 midway through the third quarter, heading into the fourth, what's your faith level that this team holds on and goes all gas, no brakes? Or do you say to yourself, "Oh, ding! It's now we're just going to see TCU come back and let's see what happens"?
No, my faith level is not high at all. I'm a little worried about this game. I'm kind of banking on the fact that it is a home game and that the crowd is going to be into it to kind of help prop Texas up a little bit. But if I were going strictly off the matchups, or if this were a neutral field or even in Fort Worth, I think I'd be leaning TCU. And the second half, I need to see it. There's no faith. I need to see it. I think if Worthy hadn't fumbled last week, they continue that drive. They don't give up the short scoring drive to Kansas State. I think it would have turned out better. But he did. It was a short scoring drive. K-State got back in the game. The fans got back in the game. So I need to see it to believe it. I worry about this team in the second half. And TCU is a good second half team. You've talked on here repeatedly about what coaches are good, making in-game adjustments. TCU is one of them.
Alex, give me some 3 keys for you.
Okay, first key would be just, you have Gary Patterson here for a lot of reasons. It would be malpractice not to squeeze every bit of insight about every little thing about every one of these players from Gary Patterson on the offense, on the defense. It should not just be the defense he's working with this week. He should be talking to everything down to the most granular level about ways you can, besides the size of the guy's body you can attack, or he doesn't like it when pressure comes this way whenever they get play action. Like there's a million things like that he's going to be able to help with, because these are guys that he recruited, guys that he knows their tendencies, he knows their strengths, their weaknesses. Get every bit of information you can out of Gary Patterson this week, no matter what side of the ball, no matter what position. Second half stuff. Look, last week, Travis talked about it with the coverage breakdowns. We saw the one coverage breakdown early on from Jalen Ford on the first wheel route from Deuce Vaughn, right? He got that thing cleaned up. They tried to go back to that thing on the opposite side of the field 2 more times, and he cleaned it up. And as far as in general, a lot of this stuff last week was, I think these linebackers need to play better in coverage, because if you look at the corners from last week, I mean, Ryan Watts was thrown at 5 times. He only allowed 2 completions. Jaron Cook allowed 2 completions. Jahdae Barron was thrown at twice. He allowed only 1 completion. But the problem is, and I don't understand, this is what personnel in the second half. What is Jameer Johnson doing in the game in the second half and getting burned on a deep post route for a team that needs to do everything that it can? I mean, for a team that's so predisposed to blowing second half leads, why is Jameer Johnson in the football game? He's allowing an 80% completion percentage when clearly targeted this year. He's getting burned once every 42 snaps. Why is Terrence Brooks in there all of a sudden out of nowhere for a series? Number 8. I looked out there and said, is that Terrence Brooks? Like, what happened? Did Jameson or Watts get hurt? Aren't they trying to protect the lead here? So I would say that, no messing around with personnel, no getting depth involved in a game like this when if you have a lead and you need to retain it. And then third, I wrote about it today. More mixing in, just not sprinkling in, more mixing in, counter, power, gap, run blocking schemes. This last week, we saw Texas run, what was it? I'll pull it up here. It was Texas last week ran 34.5% inside zone, 47.4% man power, gap, counter, trap type of runs, man and power and gap and counter. Only 10.5% of their run concepts were outside zone. So if you compare that to these other games, just the most importantly was the 47.4% of the run techniques on Bijan Robinson's best game against I don't want to say a great opponent, but against a really good opponent, a ranked opponent on the road in a hostile environment. Bijan Robinson goes bananas. I mean, put 2 and 2 together. A lot of these man gap, power, counter type of, run blocking schemes make it a whole lot easier on guys like Cole Hudson and Jake Majors, who can sometimes be a little bit of a weak link. It gives them these easy down blocks and these easy kick out blocks and stuff. It's just so much easier than getting across a man's body and getting a reach block on him and getting a lateral drive at a 45-degree angle off the line of scrimmage. It's just like a solo base assignment in zone. It's one of the hardest things there is. Like, get more of that stuff involved, because if you look, it's like the most that they'd ran before. It's been this last 2 weeks. Last week they were 21%. This last week they were 47%. Before that, the percentage that they would run of like man gap and power stuff, counters, was 7.9% versus Iowa State, 6.3% versus OU, 7.7% versus West Virginia. The only game where they even ticked up to anything near what they've done the last 2 weeks was 24% versus Tech. Versus UTSA, they were at 5.9%. Versus Alabama, they were at 11.5%. ULM, they were at 19%. So keep on mixing that up. More diversity in the run mix. It really helps your weakest links on the offensive line. It gave Bijan Robinson his best game of the season last week in a tough environment just all around. Jason, what didn't you say in your matchups last week that was one of the better run defenses?
K-State, I don't remember. Sad, Alex. I don't remember statistically where they were ranked. Yeah, they were second.
Just continue with that and don't get away from it. Look, the run game needs to be based in zone, because zone really is on the chalkboard. It's the perfect run blocking scheme, and it's just there are just certain ways that you can get beat running that every single play, 70% of the time right now. When you got Cole Hudson still learning, when you have Jake Majors, who has a little bit of a problem there at the point of attack with his lateral drive. So just a little bit more diversity in the run game. If it's working, continue with it. Those would be my 3 tips.
What about you, Jason?
Yeah, there's about 30 you could probably pick from, honestly. Yeah, but I agree. I think Texas has to run the ball effectively, which is pretty much a no-brainer, right? Got to win the turnover battle. I think this is a very even game. I think turnovers and special teams could wind up being a big factor. So win the turnover battle. And I think Quinn Ewers has to match Max Duggan. I mean, I was surprised. I didn't realize Duggan, I knew he's putting up big numbers, but he's 4th nationally in passing efficiency. I didn't realize he was that efficient this year. So have a little bit of concern about the Texas defense slowing down that TCU pass offense, especially, I think maybe Travis mentioned the middle of the field. I mean, teams have been able to exploit Texas there. So I think Quinn Ewers has got to be – Oklahoma State was a bad performance. He was better last week, but he still left some plays on the field. I think Quinn Ewers has to continue to make progress, and he has to play really well this week. Maybe hit on a couple of those deep connections that he's had troubles with. So I'll go with run the ball, just because I think Texas can run the ball effectively, keep TCU's offense off the field, special teams. And I think Quinn Ewers has to match or better TCU's passing attack.
I just wanted to say to David Williams, there aren't starters playing 100 snaps. There hasn't been a starter that's played 100 snaps all season. The most snaps on offense that they played all season is 96, and there wasn't anybody that played all those snaps. So there aren't starters playing 100 snaps. And here's the thing: even there, Texas, you get into these games with Oklahoma State and these games all the time where people play 90 snaps. I've never seen it where you take out offense. Like, what would you think if they took out offensive linemen and rotated?
Seems overthinking it a little bit, right?
It just doesn't happen. These corners, you don't take them out. Like, if you got good corners, Texas. I know the fans like to talk about Deshaun Jameson like he's not good. Deshaun Jameson's only allowing like a 42% completion percentage when he's targeted. That's been better than Ryan Watts. Like, those two guys need to play. It's been since Sark has been here that they've messed around with the cornerback rotations. And I mean, you could understand it last year with some of the injuries and things like that. But Ryan Watts has been injured. I'm not aware of Deshaun Jameson needing any sort of real help or relief off of the bench. It just feels like they're throwing guys. I mean, there was no reason for Jameer Johnson to be in there on that deep post. There wasn't any reason for Terrence Brooks to be in there for that series, deep into the third quarter of this football game. It's like keeping your best corners. They're like playing corner, especially versus a good wide receiver. I don't know. I don't know if Quentin Johnston's going to play or not. But dude, that's like a dance. You got to get into that. You can't just break that thing up all through the course of a game. It's like to me, it's like I just had to answer for what David Williams said there. It's like even so, it's
even Maurice Blackwell got a lot of run in the first half against Kansas State, and he looked lost quite a bit, actually. He had one play where he was able to break up a pass, but there were several where his head was on a swivel. He didn't know where he was going. So the rotation has been suspect.
This guy, Josh Roberts, is saying, he got me excited. I can't get his words out easily. Josh, I don't ever get my words out easily, brother. You must not have been around here very long.
There's definitely nothing new. So I'll give me some of mine that's a little bit different than your guys, but I think you guys will agree to it. I think for me, number one is cutting down on the penalties. Right, wrong, or indifferent. You can talk about how you feel about Big 12 officiating. It is what it is, right? And if you want to go conspiracy theory and say it's because Texas is leaving the Big 12, well, no. First of all, we know Texas. Big 12 officiating has always been kind of bad, so we'll start there. But even if it is, like, you got to know, like, there aren't many things that are being called that you look at and say that was not a call. Like that was the call. Your question is, what about other people, other teams? Are they getting the same kind of calls? But to me, like, this can't be one of those things. And Sark even touched on it on Monday. The offsides kind of penalties, and I know that they're going to be at home, but some of the penalties that are just taking things off the board. And I remember one of these games where Quinn had a long run and that was negated because of a penalty. Like, they've just got to cut back, on those penalties. I think that's huge for me. Staying solid on special teams, I think, is going to be another key. TCU has scored twice on punt returns, for touchdowns. They've got some dangerous weapons out there. I mean, TCU is a very explosive team, just from an overall standpoint. And then the third one for me which is simple, and it kind of bleeds in a little bit what Alex was saying. Just give everything a kiss, keep it simple, stupid. Just run Bijan. Like, just give it. It's got to be Alex. I've said over the last couple of weeks, it's just got to be how it was when Deontay Foreman was here, and when Charlie was just like, you know what, give it to him 50 times in a game. We don't care. Like, he's gone in a few weeks. Like, to me, just don't overthink it. And yes, there's going to be some times early when he's going to get stopped. Every running back is going to get stopped, but you still got to keep pounding it. You still got to keep persistent with it. As Quinn grows and matures, to me, you've got to just say, you've got one of the better running backs in the country. See if TCU and that defense can stop him, because I would say 7 times out of 10, 6 times out of 10, they're probably not going to stop him. And that, to me, for me, penalties, staying sound on special teams, and that of course would also mean making those field goals, which, golly, who the hell never knows? It always seems to go into us. And then, of course, the penalties, Bijan. That's kind of it for me. Let's go for maybe like 10 more minutes or so, guys, because I know we got a clock thing going for us. I know everyone's got obligations, places to be. So maybe go for 10 more minutes at the most, and then wrap it up, from there. Jason, is there anything else that, I'm missing? Because I do want to talk about actually big play and kind of bleed into a little bit what Alice is talking about. And I kind of mentioned this to Sarkisian. The TCU leads the nation with 14 touchdowns of 50-plus yards or more. And that's kind of one of the things when I asked him about that today. He's like, this is one of those teams that, that big play is not going to be a 40-yard gain. That's a touchdown, against a team like that. They're averaging 285 yards passing per game, 200 rushing per game. They've had at least 20 passing, 20 rushing touchdowns. And I mean, and then they also have like 46 runs of at least 12 yards, 62 passes of 15 yards or more. Really explosive, on offense. Just talk about the key for Texas to slowing down that explosiveness of TCU.
Yeah, I think Sonny Dykes does a really good job in that staff of spreading you out. And I thought Sark was spot on. Hey, if you don't make that tackle, if you don't swarm that tackle, because they'll make you miss in space. And if you don't swarm, it won't be 30, 40-yard gain. They'll take it to the house from 60, 70, 80 yards. They've done it this year. Yeah, I read the game notes, Almar, and I don't have them in front of me. Maybe you do, but it was pretty staggering just how many big plays they've had for scores. I was like, wow. I mean, I knew they were explosive, but, I mean, arguably the most explosive offense in the country in terms of big plays. Quentin Johnson, who knows if he plays or how healthy he's going to be, but everybody focuses on him, and I get it. Great player. He's physically imposing. Tay Barber's really good. Darius Davis, Savion Williams, all those dudes can make big plays. Kendre Miller, their running back. He's a big body, kind of almost runs like a bruiser at times, but I'm telling you, man, that dude can take it to the house from 40, 50 yards plus too, and once he gets past that first level. So how do you do it? I mean, I think Sark was spot on what he said today. Obviously, you got to be sure in your tackling, and that's every week, right? But you've got to, as he says, populate the football. You can't just have one guy trying to make the tackle, another guy standing around, even if you're 2 yards away, just assuming they're going to make the tackle. And we saw that, I think it was in the Oklahoma State game, once or twice, like they popped for big plays. No, you can't do that, man. You got to. I don't care if you're pretty sure your defender is going to make the tackle, you better get your ass in there and help out anyways, because if you don't, they'll shake a tackle and take off and take it to the house. So, TCU is going to hit some big plays, and you got to try to minimize that. But you can't – I mean, Texas fans, I know what's going to happen. First quarter, they're going to score and maybe have a big play or whatever. Orangebloods is going to melt down and fire Kwiatkowski, and his defense is terrible. Guys, this is college football in today's day and age. You're not going to keep TCU to 13 points or 17 points most likely. I mean, this is going to be a game that pushes probably close to the 30s for both teams. So you've got to minimize it. I mean, when they do make a big play on Mar, keep them out of the end zone, try to force field goals, swarm to the football. And, if they make a big play, you got to just dust yourself off and try to put it behind you and come back to the next one. But you can't let it happen repeatedly. That's what TCU does a good job at. They just keep coming at you. And we mentioned that they're so good in the second half. Sark said it today. He goes, and I don't break down the film like he does, but he said it's not a schematic thing. It's not that they change their scheme so much from the first half to the second half. They run a good system. They got good explosive athletes, and they just keep coming at you and wear you down. So it's going to take a group effort from this Texas defense, and you can't have anybody standing around watching while they run past them.
Alex, I know you just talked about some of the breakdowns, and is it as simplistic, Alex, as these breakdowns are occurring when some of the backups are in? Because again, no. So give me your thoughts on this.
Well, I mean, they are, but
okay.
I mean, they did in the last game. It did. I mean, it happened at least once when a dude was in there for only like 6 snaps. But no, it's like it's hard to figure out. It's hard to. I feel like people always ask, it's like, what is it with the second half breakdowns and stuff? And you just say, well, I mean, it's kind of different every game. It feels like these. I don't know, man. It's like it's a double-edged sword, because I've heard some people I've seen some people in the chat saying it. It's like it feels like the Texas zone just gets so much softer in the second half of these games. You have people running wide open at times on these slants and these digs and these in-breaking deeper routes, and you wonder how it can possibly happen. And then you go to man looks, and then you see what happens when you do that. This last week specifically, and as people have been talking about in the chat, you get your DB's backs turned to these guys, especially your nickel corner. You get your back turned, and then you're going to have a quarterback who knows how to run, be able to find some run lanes and be able to pick up some easy yards on you. So it's that's more of a Gary Patterson question than a me question from an overall. So that's a PK question. That's from an overall perspective about how you can do it. I'm not sure what the breakdowns in general across all these games have been. I can just go on a game by game level and say, well, this is what happened in this one. This is what happened in that one. As far as the overarching responsibility for it all, I think that's probably a little bit above my pay grade.
Let's knock out some of the super chats, and then we'll go into some parting shots here because I know we're coming up against the clock. Blake, go ahead and start putting them on the screen. I think there's 3 or so in here, but let us know, Blake. All right. Ben C says, I don't think TCU is that good. If you look at the last 4 games, all their games have been – I can't put my chat down, so I cannot get to what – okay. Thank you. There have been by 1 score going into the 4th quarter before separating a Texas 45, TCU 42. Just kind of a general thought. What's the other super chat? Thank you, Ben C. The other one, Tom G. This is an interesting one. I'll start. Jason, I'll start with you on this one. Over under Quinn's QB rating of a 148.0.
What was he last week? Do we remember?
We'll look it up.
Right.
I'll go ahead and answer that. I think he's going to be above. I think coming back home is going to help him. This is a pretty talented TCU defense, but Texas has played better defenses. And I just feel like Quinn is just on the verge of having one of those huge games. I mean, again, we know he was poor a few weeks ago when they were in Stillwater. Last week was a bit up and down, but made some really nice plays last week, but missed some plays that he would tell you he needs to make. I keep thinking, okay, this is the week he's going to make that connection with Worthy, and Worthy's going to go off. I'm expecting Quinn. I think he knows he has to have a good game. I think they'll have a good design. Texas will and Sark will. And being at home, I know it's supposed to be some weather, maybe stuff Friday night, maybe early in the day Saturday, but I think someone said maybe by Saturday night the wind dies down. I'm expecting, my gut tells me Quinn has a pretty decent game, so I'll go over the 148 QBR.
All right, that's it. We're good on the super chats. Oh, my bad. Everyone else give me your thoughts. My bad. Go ahead, Travis. I apologize.
So real quick, Quinn had a 132 rating last week against Kansas State.
But he needs to come up quite a bit.
Yeah, I wrote about this in my column, though. I think this is the Quinn Ewers breakout game. I think if Sark does get him acclimated well, I think he's going to be pumped up, and when he does, he tends to float balls high, overthrow people. But if Sark will get him some easy completions early and settle him down, I think this is a breakout game. I think he and Worthy are due to connect on some of those long balls, and I also think this is a big JT Sanders game. So I'm going to take the over. Maybe that's too optimistic. I don't know. But I think this is his week. So I'm going over.
Why isn't Sark scheming these guys wide ass open like these teams do against Texas? Why are all these balls contested by every single wide receiver except the ones over the middle, sometimes to Jordan Whittington? Why is it always into double coverage versus Xavier Worthy?
Is that on Sark or is that on Ewers?
Yeah, Worthy's been open downfield several times where Ewers just missed him, man.
It's just like, man, you just like, it just seems like it was a lot more last year. I don't know, man. As far as the QB rating question, I don't really know. I'm not really sure how QB rating works. I think it's more of a Ketchum's always talking about QB rating. I keep my own stats. I don't even know what goes into QB rating. He was what he was a 132 last week.
Everything. It's just efficiency, yards per attempt. I mean, touchdowns, it's just an efficiency rating. Yeah, so.
I don't know. I don't know. I'm sorry if you feel like you wasted your super chat.
None of us know anything. We just BS our way through it. Come on, man. You gotta.
Don't get good started on QBR either. So, because that'll be another long conversation. Almost as long as his love of recruits and how that equates into NFL draft picks. So, all right, well, let's just go ahead and do some party shots. Travis, before we go into party shots, I do have to ask, what is your dog's name?
That's Toby in the background.
Toby,
he's a 1-year-old Wheaton Terrier.
How old?
1.
Did you name him after that Sooner, Toby Keith?
No. I don't think I ever would have even thought of that. So, no. Mindy, my wife, just likes the name Toby. I don't know. So she named him Toby. But he's a good boy. He's a bit rambunctious. He's a puppy still, but he's a good boy.
Seems to be enjoying himself. All right. So
no, he's loving life.
Oh yeah, he's chilling on that bed right there. So if that's the bed behind you, Toby's just living his best life back there. We see him just relaxing. So all right, well, go ahead and give us a partner shot, Travis.
I don't really have anything other than we talked earlier about the atmosphere of the game, and I'm not even talking about game day, but you can throw it in there if you want. I hope fans go and have a good time this week. These are the games we want to see Texas playing in. We want November to be worth something, and right now it is. So go out, have a good time, enjoy the game, enjoy the atmosphere,
the weather.
The weather. I mean, you can't beat football in November. So let's hope it next week is just as meaningful as this week, and go have fun.
Jason, what you got?
Just gearing up for a big recruiting weekend, man. I just would urge everybody to stay connected or keep an eye on orangebloods.com, starting with the War Room tonight, throughout the weekend, really in the next week. There's going to be so much to cover. It'll probably span to next week. I'm just trying to keep my sanity with a wife and 3 kids, all with the flu. Knock on wood. I've been able to avoid it. I've been sleeping on this couch that y'all can't see over here all week. I think my wife might be just faking the flu, so I sleep on the couch. I'm like back to like COVID days. I'm wearing masks and crap when I'm not in the room. But hopefully I can make it through this weekend unscathed and we'll have Cole Patterson and I will have coverage of the recruiting stuff again, starting in the war room tonight, throughout the weekend, and probably in the next week. So exciting week for Texas football on the field and in the recruiting front. So keep an eye on orangebloods.com.
All that crud going around with all these kids, man. And Jason, my kid is had it. All these kids keep getting it. Like, all of them got this flu thing that's going on. I mean, you know, they only need the Alex remedy, because when I got COVID, Alex is the guy that gave me like a bunch of things to buy. And the next thing I knew, like, I started feeling better. So Alex probably has the formula for all, especially kids, to get better, right, Alex? Do you have that?
What, for flu? Yeah, just go to the doctor and get Tamiflu.
That's what hey, dude, as soon, well, Alex, you mentioned that on Sunday when my daughter tested positive first, and then my wife and my son Sunday night started feeling well. I'm like, get on the phone with the telehealth and get Tamiflu started now. So everybody's been pumping Tamiflu, and I've been doing, just as a precaution, I'm just pumping emergency, that powder vitamin C crap through my body like a madman. But hey, so far so good, man.
No, I mean, I'm more just like I had to. My well went out during the height of COVID, right? So basically, it was like in my gym I go to, shout out Hill Country Indoor. I had to go up there to shower every single day, and my gym was like, no one wears masks up there. No one wore masks up there even during the peak of the whole pandemic out here in out here in the Lakeway area. And so it's like every time I would have to go in there to shower because my well was out. We were having to get water brought into our tank, like all this stuff like that. So I'm in this cruddy, not cruddy, it's a nice locker room, but I'm just with all these sweaty dudes, like all around breathing on each other, having to take public showers literally every day of COVID, man. So I was having to do a little bit of research about what different, like how to get the zinc into the actual bloodstream, and the quercetin and the bromelain and all that stuff. So I'm definitely glad to help you out, brother.
It worked because I was able to basically use that formula and then give it to other people, and I just passed it along, and I took a picture when everyone would get it. And I'm like, here's what I got. It's about $200 worth of crap, but it'll help. It'll help at some point, and it actually did. So, is that going to be your parting shot, Alex? Because I know usually when I come to you, you say you have nothing.
Yeah, if anybody has tips about what I need to do about the car, I backed my car into a tree on Sunday coming home from a little fishing trip with my kids. If anybody has any tips about how I handle the estimating process, I've had to call in and get estimates. I got them lined up for today. If anybody has tips about what to look out for, pitfalls possible, I'm going to 3 different spots to get this thing fixed. I got to get taillight fixed and something on my tailgate. So I don't know I don't know really what to expect. I hope it's not going to be that expensive, but you never know. You get into these things and you get some kind of estimate back that's so much higher. So if anybody has tips, what I should look out for, insurance, anything like that, put them in chat. I would appreciate it.
That would definitely help. I must ask though, trees are usually stationary objects. So how did you end up hitting a tree?
Oh, I just had a couple coolers and like a tarp and stuff in the back. So I backed in so it would just be easier to get them out into the garage. And I live on a really wooded lot, and so I got him in the garage. I pulled up, I pulled back. I'm like, hey man, as long as I'm in here like this, I'll just kind of back into my spot. I did. I just went too far and just banged it right into this tree. Was it too exciting a story?
No. I'm just imagining your reaction when you realize that you hit a tree and seeing the damage. And if it's as calm as you usually are, Alex, I'm imagining there was a lot of curse words that were involved in that one. Okay, use error as is. All right. My party shot will be this, a couple just little things. They got Texas men's basketball is tonight. They play Houston Baptist as they continue to tune up for next week when they play against Gonzaga on Wednesday night. So we'll have to get someone on here to talk some hoops at some point because Texas men's basketball is doing well. Signings just happened as well. So I'm not going to profess to know everyone who signed on Wednesday signing day. But I know that stud. Travis, you know what that stud is from Cedar Park, the women's basketball player? You know exactly what I'm talking about, Travis?
No, man. I know nothing about basketball. That is not
I know you're talking about. I don't know her name, but yeah.
Jesus, absolutely such going to early enroll. I feel bad. All right, it's got to go work better than this. We got to do because now I feel bad for not saying her name. Hold on. Mall. I think her last name is Mall. Oh yeah. Gisela Mall.
Yeah.
Gisela Mall. Anyway, she's a badass. Alex, if you ever just want to look at some girls basketball highlights,
does Texas still have that little point guard this year? She was a freshman last year, right? That girl was awesome.
Oh, it was an OB athlete, right?
I don't know what her name is. The Texas women's point guard.
Mm-hmm. Yes. She should be back.
Okay, I guess Blake saying is her name Rory Harmon. Yeah. Oh, she's a G. Yeah, man, she's good.
She's badass. She's absolute badass. She was an OB sponsored athlete for all of last season too. Alice, so just want to throw that out there. And then looking forward to this upcoming weekend and what all this entails for Texas. The Gary Patterson story, and I'm waiting. Like Ketch and I have a bet, by the way. Ketch has bet me. We bet each other on Monday. The bet was he believed that there would be a story in the Fort Worth paper about Gary Patterson on Friday. By Friday is what he said. My bet was I believe that we're going to see Gary Patterson on game day during a game day feature. Because I don't expect that Gary Patterson was made available to any local writer, any local person covering a team. But if you tell me ESPN decided to do a sit down with Gary, that to me, Alex, that's the most likely.
Do you guys want to put an over under on how many times they're going to show him on the sideline? On the broadcast? You think it'll be? I put the over under at 4.5 times.
I was just going to say 5, so we're right in the same ballpark.
I say 4.5 is the Vegas over under on Gary Patterson. The kind of cutouts to the sideline to show him.
I'll take the over.
I'll take the over on that one as well.
Jason, do you have the over?
If it's 4.5, I'll go with the more. Yeah,
looks like the house. Looks like the house might take one on the chin here, boys. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, for Jason, for Alex, for Travis, and for Ketch, and for our sponsor, DeadSoxy, make sure you use the promo code Orangebloods to get 25 off those really cool socks that one day Alex will have a chance to participate in. But for Toby, who I don't want Toby to feel left out of the outro here. You guys have a great one. We will see you on Saturday with our post-game live show with Ketch and I. So until then, you guys take care. Have a great weekend. Be safe and enjoy game day.